I would like to speak to you about a project which has been on my mind for a very, very long time, and that is about the amateur pianist. Now, the word amateur had a rather derogatory meaning, meaning it was always confounded with a dilettante. Now, a dilettante is somebody who is like a philanderer, yeah, who goes from thing to thing or from woman to woman or whatever you like. But the amateur is a man or a woman who loves what he is doing for a particular thing they have chosen. One of the great people who have put amateur pianism on this on the forefront is actually Alan Rusbridger. Very difficult to say for me with so many Rusbridger. He's the editor of The Guardian and a wonderful amateur pianist who has written whole columns about the agony and ecstasy of studying the piano. He fights it like somebody who goes to Mount Everest and wants to conquer it. Now there are various people who start who are amateurs. There is the beginner, the adult beginner, who starts absolutely from scratch. And there's the person who had played the piano. There you will find 50% of a middle class person, or the audience who come to the concerts, the recital, who have actually learned the piano in their childhood, have left it during the formative years, have not been inspired enough, and later on in life, when they achieve a sort of more or less comfortable life, they would love to play again. And then you have got, of course, the category of Mr. Alan Rusbridge, who is really a top player. I mean, you wouldn't know the difference between him and a professional, except I haven't seen him really from nearby to see, because I've seen a picture of him in his Evening Standard, and there's something in his posture, which I think that lots of top-class amateur players who play very demanding piano pieces have actually not addressed the problem of their physical well-being at the piano. They have been, every time they perform a piece, every time they've got to produce the same amount of effort, which I think that in these days, then there's so much talk about, there are so many people who come up on the bandwagon and talk about, there are medical people who dabble now in musicians' problems. There are yoga teachers, there are, you know, name it, a whole horde of people who interfere now with the problems of a musician who had physical problems. Now, my point is that from lesson one, whatever it's a beginner, somebody who has played or is, you start first of all addressing the keyboard with your whole body, from the toes up. Everything has to play. And the funny part is I had, in my teaching experience, I had doctors who have no idea about their own bodies actually. Because, for instance, in sight reading, everybody puts their neck forward and strains their eyes. All you have to do is just go forward to the keyboard and address it with your whole body. There's no need to strain the eyes and strain your neck and do all the things which later on then produce all these lots of people who then see themselves as the people who are saving the people from illnesses, from cramps, from all sorts of tensions. Tension is a very important thing in my book. The book relaxation, I don't use the word relaxation. I use letting go. Not really. You are relaxed when you're in your bathroom or when you're when you sleep, but when you make music, it is about tension. The thing is how to not to allow the tension, the creative tension, to interfere with your muscular being. That's what I'm all about. Now, the people who want to start the piano always say the children learn so easily. Well, this is absolutely, in my book, not right. A child actually hasn't got the kind of experience, motoric experience, like an adult. An adult is used to deal every day with new problems where he has to think ahead. Driving a car itself, you need 5 things. You have to look, you have to drive, you have to turn, you have to foresee things, which a child has not yet got. So therefore, when I teach an adult beginner, from the beginning I enroll all these elements which an adult has to face in his daily life, crossing a road, looking at maps, planning, which a child actually doesn't like. A child likes sameness. But the adult likes to explore much more. That is one. The other one is the person who has played the piano before, who is the restarter, who comes to a lesson with all the illnesses, and not illnesses, but all the wrong things he has learned in the past. Now the thing is that the motoric thing in our body is that, for instance, look at people who have learned swimming as a child. When they take up swimming, 20, 30 years later, they can still swim. That means to say, our motor is retaining all the same things. If you have had bad habits, the bad habits will re-incur later on, just the same as if 20, 30 years haven't even passed. So therefore, from the start, very important is the body in piano playing, because the body can achieve a lot. Then you have, of course, the very, as Mr. Raspberry just said, he went to a piano course. There are people playing the most demanding programs, I mean, the kind of thing which a professional would shudder sometimes to address. But when you look at this, they can play it, but it has got still with this enormous effort. Now, from the day one, when I teach, from lesson one, I instill first of all, the idea of a phrase. That means to say there are no two standards. There's only one standard. That means if you play cuckoo, if you play the smallest piece, it must not sound as like a beginner. There's no need for it. I'm going just to read just very shortly something to my absolute horror and dismay. I saw an article in the letters from ISM is the Incorporated of Musicians. They always write letters. In England, we have for centuries, both in the arts and in sport, paid appreciative lip service to the amateur, but regarded the professional approach as being unworthy. The lady who has written this, or the gentleman, I do not say that this attitude is wrong. But this raises my blood pressure any minute, because this is no such thing. There are no two standards for a beginner, a restarter, or an advanced pianist. A rose is a rose is a rose, a phrase is a phrase is a phrase, a musical phrase. Now, the only thing is with the piano, being a percussive instrument, you have to conjure up the sound. Now, we all know that what I'm telling you now is something which everybody knows, that when a singer has to breathe in order to be able to produce a sound, and in order to make a crescendo, the fiddler has got the bow phrase. A wind player again uses the breath. The piano, you put your finger on the piano, and it produces, and the pitch is right. But to produce a beautiful sound, you have to really let go into the keyboard. So the sound actually comes out from those, I can say, from the bottom of your feet, actually, from your toes.